I started my first company at 5 years old.
Wow.
I sold roses on the corners of the streets of Beverly Hills.
I used to sell decals at school
Yeah,
at
so you-
fifth grade, and I used to bring in all the money, and I had a sales team out there for the different lunch hours. So very cool.
I'm sort of lucky in the respect that I come from an Indian family of business people. My father, all my uncles, my grandfathers were all business people. I remember my uncle sent me 144 packs of playing cards when I was 12 years old. And I had no idea why, but I took them and I sold them at school for an average price of $8 each. So I guess something happened from that.
That's very cool. Is there anything in business that once you got started, that you didn't expect would happen?
You know, when I was younger, I thought it was about what work I could get accomplished. But business is a lot less about what I can do, and it's more about what we can do. It's about team building,
Yes.
and it's about working with people and making them feel this is what they want to do and this is what they have done. I would say give other people credit for your ideas. Like subvert your ego and then give somebody else, make somebody else feel like that idea.
That they own it.
That was their idea.
That was their revelation.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Just because I can do something doesn't mean I should do it. And if what I am is a steward of my company and not my ego, then I need to make the decision at any given point, is this something that I should be adding to the team or doing myself? And frankly, the easier thing, even though it sounds crazy, the easier thing is to do it yourself. You do it yourself, you have complete agency control, your ego is uplifted, and you think you get it done. But the reality is, at least in my case, I end up being the bottleneck. Suddenly, I'm the one in charge of that, and I can't do all of these other things because I've assigned myself this responsibility. So I'm going to take my time and build the right team and then hand them the responsibility and help and guide them and work with them to accomplish goals.
Sure.
When I was younger, I did a lot less of that. And what I ended up doing, I ended up burning out a lot of teams because also I work obsessively and very productively and accomplish so much that it puts this pressure on everybody else that's unsustainable. There was times that I proudly worked 100 plus hours a week. And it has become more and more clear to me that anything after 40 hours a week is my ego working.
Yes.
And it's not serving my companies and it's not serving the people around me. So what I try now is in the mornings to try to delay my first engagement with business. And often that doesn't happen. I will check my business email right away. But after that first run through, I go through my process in the mornings.
Your routine.
And then when I work out, which is like the late afternoon or evening, I try to not work after that time.
So you'll shut it down.
So I try to shut it down.
So that's your productivity hack.
Yeah, it's containing work to a reasonable amount of work hours. Because what happens when I overwork is I get very resentful that everybody around me isn't doing as much work.
Yes, you're a driven type, and then you put this drive on others and they burn out. Interesting. What did you do this morning? What is your morning routine?
I wake up, I pray, I meditate.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in a recovery program. So
Okay.
I went to a physical meeting and then I had lunch with a good friend of mine and talked about everything. So all this other stuff that I think is the most interesting conversation in the world. I think, for example, the conversation around spirituality is the oldest conversation in human society. And we've forgotten to talk about it for 100 years because democracy and capitalism has confused us regarding what our primary purpose is as a human being. I think for me, I need to ground myself. Number one, figure out how to feel grateful today because I am a blessed human being. Out of the 14 billion people to have ever walked this earth, I am one of the luckiest. And I need to recognize that every morning because otherwise, you know, out of the 1,000 thoughts that I think at any given time, I might choose the one that makes me angst driven and ego driven instead of grateful and peaceful and present.
Perfect. You're led by your heart. So where was your aha, I call it the catch it moment, where was your aha moment that switched you? What was it that triggered that catch it where you had a revelation and you made it your own and you went the other way? What was it?
I think it had to do with sort of failing, with just running it into the ground and being dissatisfied. Running myself into the ground as much as the business is.
Okay.
Like when you get what you want and you're still unhappy, there's an existential crisis
you're correct.
That comes about. The idea of removing monetary results from projects that I'm working on is interesting to me today. Some of the most successful friends that I know are unhappy. We all have this.
I used to be on Wall Street and handle money for some of the richest men in the world, and many of them were just miserable. You had recovery, you got apps, you got businesses, you're building teams. Personally, what is the most important thing to you right now?
It's staying present instead of sort of hypomanically thinking that everything's going to go well for the next 3 years.
Yes.
Because what ends up happening is I stop engaging with the people and places and things around me.
Yes.
Because I prefer this version of the future, which, by the way, I'm wrong more than I'm right.
Yes.
And the future never comes to pass the way that I see it.
What do you do? And you mentioned prayer and meditation. Is there anything more specific? Anything else that people should know for you to be present each and every day?
When interacting with another human being, I need to remember it's more important to be kind than to be right. I'd rather be wrong together and then figure out what's right together than be right, then sort of force my opinion on you, which makes you feel like a worse human being. And then through gritted teeth, you will continue until you can opt out. And then what I get as a result of all that is overwhelming guilt that I've made you feel worse as a human being.
Oh,
so what's the point of being right if I'm destroying somebody else's soul?
That's correct.